Okay, you're live. You may begin.
Thank you. This is Sheila Collins, current chair of the library board, welcoming you to the regular meeting of the City of Scottsdale Library Advisory Board of Wednesday, February 17th, 2021. We'll start with a call to order. Having accomplished that, we'll go directly to the roll call. Chair Sheila Collins, present. Vice Chair Sheila Raymond.
Present.
Board member Sam Campana. Pretty sure she's here. Sam, can you unmute yourself to say present? We'll come back to her.
Present.
Frida.
Present.
Oh, thank you. Frida Hartman.
Yes, present.
Fred Klein.
Here.
Marna McClendon.
Present.
Janet Smigilski.
Present.
Great. Is there any public comment that has anybody else signed in to identify either written or spoken comment? Hearing no awareness of that, we'll go directly to the minutes for consideration. The minutes of January 20th, 2021 are available for review and approval. Any concerns or questions of the minutes of January 20th, 2021?
Sheila, this is Sheila Raymond. I move that we approve the minutes from our last meeting on January 20th, 2021.
Do I
This
hear a
is
second?
Janet Smigilski. Janet Smigilski, I second.
All right. Great. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Chair Collins, this is Kira. Janet, I see you still have your hand raised. Was that just to second the motion?
That was, yes.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
No, it's okay. I just want to make sure I'm paying attention to the hands. No worries.
Thank you.
Okay. Then we're all set on that.
I apologize. This is Kim Campbell. Would you all mind doing a roll call vote?
Certainly. Let me just get
Thank
back
you.
to this. Let's see. We'll start with Sheila Collins, approve. Sheila Raymond.
Approved.
Sam Campana.
Approved.
Fred
Approve.
Klein, sorry. Frida Hartman.
Approve.
Marna McClendon.
Approve.
And Janet Smigilski.
Approve.
Very good. All right, those have been approved. Next on the agenda, as you may remember that this was aborted from our last technologically challenged second half of the meeting in January, and that is an important item, which is to talk about the nomination and election of officers for 2021. I would like to begin by saying that it's been a pleasure and an honor to serve you as your chair for the past 12 months. It's been an unusual term, to say the least, but I think we should be proud as we look back of the accomplishments that were made. Certainly, we started out that period with the accomplishment of our fine-free library, a goal we had worked for several years. We've made progress, and we'll look forward to the opening soon of our remote library coming up to serve our northern residents and any of our citizens. We have made some strides in terms of outreach, both in our relationships with the sites and with our leadership in the council and mayor office. And most importantly, I think we have weathered the pandemic and have supported our library staff as they have come up with creative and effective solutions to deal with something that none of us could have foreseen 12 months ago. So kudos to all of the board and all of the library staff for their ingenuity, their creativity, and their persistence over the past 12 months. And I think all of us can see the light at the end of the tunnel, as many of us have completed our vaccinations. I hope the day is not too far in the future when we can actually meet each other in person. I know I was thinking the other day that there are some people that I have not ever seen in the flesh, and I very much look forward to having a social hour when we can do that. As we move to the election, let me just remind you how that goes. This happens once a year. In this case, since that usually happens at the end of the January meeting, the individual selected for chair and vice chair will assume responsibility for the meeting forthwith. And I will turn over the imaginary gavel to the chair directly following. People can self-nominate, they can nominate themselves, or there are nominations from the floor rather, of someone that you would like to nominate from that. We can certainly have more than one, and we will have a voice call vote to identify, much as they do at the city council meetings, to identify who the next chair and vice chair is. Any questions on how that works?
Chair Collins, this is Kira Peters, and no questions, but briefly, I just wanted to say on behalf of the library team, thank you for your service as library board chair for this difficult year. So thank you.
You're welcome. All right, then let's begin with the election of the chair for the 2021 to 22 term. And if I might, I'd like to begin with a nomination. I nominate Sheila Raymond, current vice chair, to serve as chair for the following year. Are there other nominations?
This is Janice Smigelski. I would just like to second that nomination because I was going to do it also. So I would like to second the nomination of Sheila Raymond.
Thank you, Janet. Are there other nominees? Hearing none, may I ask for a voice vote on Sheila Raymond to serve as the next chair of the Library Advisory Board? And we'll call the roll again. Chair Sheila Collins for a brief few more minutes. Yay. Vice Chair Sheila Raymond.
Yay. Thank you.
Board Member Sam Campana.
Yay.
Frida Hartman.
Yay.
Fred Klein.
Yes.
Marna McClendon.
Happily, yes.
Oh, and Janice Smigelski.
And very happily, yes, also.
Congratulations, Chair Raymond. And I turn over, following the identification of the vice chair, I'll happily turn over the gavel to you for the rest of the meeting. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I look forward to what we can do as a board for this next year and how we can support our wonderful library staff and our great director, Kira. Thank you. And Sheila, thank you for everything that you've done in helping with the strategic plan as well. So that wasn't something that came up, but definitely your help.
You're right.
It's very important. So thank you.
You're welcome. Next, we have the vice chair role, who serves is when the chair is unable to, and also generally assumes some additional responsibilities. I do have a nomination that I would like to make, but this time I'll let me open it up to the floor first. Are there self nominations or other nominations for the position of vice chair?
This is Sheila Raymond. I know there are two people that are really great and would be, only because I've known them and they've worked really hard with the library. Janet Smigelski has been a volunteer in the library, so she brings a different perspective to the library board. She sees it from the inside. And so I nominate Janet Smigelski. And I don't know if it's appropriate for me to nominate a second person. I just, it's a matter of if they would even, I don't even know if they're willing to accept it. So let's see what others have to say first, and then we'll go forward.
Okay. Janet Smigelski is a candidate. Others?
Janet, are you interested? Will you accept the nomination?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Yes, I would like to very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Hearing no other,
oh,
I would second that.
Great. I have a nomination of Frida Hartman. I believe that she brings to the board some significant experience being a past chair and also working with the Friends group in her previous location. So Frida, would you accept that nomination?
Yes, I would. Thank you.
All right. We have 2 candidates. Are there other candidates? Hearing none, let's have a roll call vote. And
Sheila,
I'm
could
sorry,
we have,
did I miss one?
sorry, this is Sheila Raymond. Could we have them just say something about themselves since we have 2
Certainly.
people?
That's a great idea.
Thank you.
Janet, we'll start with you. Could you talk a little bit about your qualifications and interest in this leadership role?
Sure, I'd be more than happy to. My name is Janet Smigelski, of course. I served on the board this last term. I am currently helping as the board liaison to the Friends meeting, which I thoroughly enjoy and have seen a phenomenal growth in that organization. For the past 2 years until COVID, I was helping at the Civic Center Library because I have a master's in library science and I've worked in public libraries for 10 to 15 years. I was able to work on the floor with the other librarians. And so I was able to bring a perspective to the board that I think is really, really important. And I would like to continue that as a board member and as a volunteer when we are able to. I would very much like to represent the board in any way possible that I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Janet. Well said. Frida, your comments.
Yes, thank you, and I appreciate the nomination. In my prior home, as Sheila mentioned earlier, I did chair the library board in Montgomery County, Maryland for 3 years. And I also co-chaired the strategic planning effort with the library director during that time. And prior to that time, I was the chair of the local, we called them library advisory committees. So every library in the county had an advisory committee made up of volunteers, and I chaired that for my local library. So that's how I kind of worked my way up to the library board, if you will. I also served for a brief time as president of the local Friends of the Library chapter. So I'm very well versed in the issues. We had a number of initiatives during the time I was the chair, bringing all of the state library chairs together, for example, to lobby for funding. And so, I have a different perspective from that. And although I've lived many years in Scottsdale, I would have that experience to bring to bear. I think that, we're in such challenging times, and what we have done this year since the time that I joined the board has been really great. And I'm sort of an idea person and coming up with kind of different approaches. And so that's what I would bring. That would be one of my strengths. But I do recognize the service of my fellow board members, and I respect very much the staff and the wonderful service that the library here provides. So it would be an honor to serve if elected. So thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, Frida. And I would just note that to all candidates, when there's more than one, that there are additional opportunities to serve in subsequent years. So we just appreciate that we have a surplus of great candidates. But now let me call the roll. And if you would just indicate by voice vote the candidate for which you would cast your vote for vice chair. I'll start with myself, Sheila Collins, Frida Hartman, Sheila Raymond,
Janet Smigelski.
Sam Campana,
Smigelski.
Frida Hartman.
Well, I don't know if it's ethical to vote for myself.
Yes,
I
you
guess I will,
can.
yes. Yes,
Yes.
I'll vote for myself.
Yes, you. If you didn't, we should reconsider. Fred,
Janet, based solely on what I've just heard.
all right. Marna
Janet, please.
and Janet.
Myself, thank you.
All right. And doing a quick tally, it looks to me like Janet has achieved the majority of the votes. So let me congratulate Janet as our next vice chair of the library board. And congratulations to both Sheila and Janet as they take over the helm for the upcoming year. Sheila, let me,
Can I say something? This is Frida.
yes.
I just want to congratulate Janet, and you'll do an awesome job. And just best of wishes for the entire year. I mean,
Thank you very much. I
support
appreciate
you.
that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Gracious.
Thank you.
Very gracious. All right, Sheila Raymond, may I bring the virtual gavel over to you and let you continue the leadership of the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Sheila. Big shoes to fill. I appreciate it.
Mhm.
So the next item on the agenda is the 2020 annual report. And so for that, just a reminder, this is, if you read your agenda at the bottom of each category, it tells you what we are going to be doing. So in this case, there will be a roll call vote and there is discussion. So just follow along, and Kira, take it away.
Thank you very much, and congratulations, Chair Raymond.
you.
Everyone, we did review the annual report at our last meeting. We just neglected to vote on approving it. So unless anybody has any other questions about the annual report, it was attached to your agenda. Chair Raymond, I feel like we could really just run the vote unless anybody has any specific questions about the annual report that I reviewed at our meeting in January. Any questions from the library board?
I have a question.
Sure.
Is this the report we have on paper, the 2/17/21 Director's Report for the Library Board? Is this what we're voting on?
No.
This is actually, yeah, no, this is the annual report. Board member Klein, at the ending of our meeting, I will review my director's report, which just kind of covers the high level events and things that are happening in the library. This is different than that. This is basically an overview of last year and the different things that we covered at the library board meetings. And at the culmination of the annual report, we talk about anticipated issues for the library, future significant work projects, and then upcoming opportunities. So this is our annual report, different than the director's report that I'll review.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
And this goes to the city council. Am I correct, Kira?
You are absolutely correct.
This is Frida, and I have a couple of questions for Kira, if that's okay.
Of course.
The first question is deals with the section on anticipated key issues.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering what we think about library service and what library service looks like in 2021. And is that the intention behind the item here on providing library service and access and service during COVID recovery? Is that what we're thinking about? To
That is-
really kind of define what it is in 2021 and beyond.
You are absolutely correct. And really, that's what this library team is working through right now as we start thinking of recovering from COVID-19 and how that will impact our users. Later on, we're going to talk about programming. That's exactly what that item means.
So the second bullet point there, which says anticipating how to provide library service, maybe that would read to capture this thought here, anticipating what library service looks like and how to provide it during COVID-19 recovery, something like that.
Yep. Oh, okay, I
That
gotcha.
was the intention,
Yep. No, that is the intention. Okay, I can read word that.
And then my other question deals with this third, the third section, upcoming opportunities, challenges, or outcomes. And it's that last bullet point, working on being a trend-setting library and taking thoughtful risks in library services. So I'm wondering, what would we consider to be the trend-setting libraries nationally? Are there some that stand out in our minds so they're kind of models for what we would look to, or is that not something that exists right now? And how do we define trend setting there?
Board Member Hartman, I don't know if I'd have a definition for trend setting necessarily, but there are certainly public library systems that we will research and review, and we're thinking about a different or a new service. For example, right now, I would say one of the trend setting things that we are doing is implementing the Open Plus technology via the Pony Express at Appaloosa. And so that was something that we've worked with, of course, our vendor on that, but we also did research on other library systems that were using that technology to what we considered to be a trend-setting service, not just during a pandemic such as COVID-19, but this is a service that even after COVID-19, we could use to expand library service. So things like that. And so there's not specifics on one particular public library that we look to, but when we think of an initiative that we want to do, we like to do our research and we like to find out what other public library systems are doing. So that's what that would mean. Yes.
This is Mandy. I can also help answer that question.
Thank you, Mandy.
So in the two different parts that you asked, one, are there trend-setting libraries in the nation? And yes, it's fluid. We find that trend setting happens in libraries a lot when there's a situation or problem to solve in their community, and they come up with a new and innovative way to do so that makes a lot of sense and changes the way that library service is done across the nation. So people take turns being trendsetters. Kira mentioned Open Plus, and that's a solution that we're coming up with where we've already gotten other library systems hearing about it and asking us our process and what we're doing to solve that problem. And so that is kind of how we define trend setting. So anything that starts off as a service improvement that catches fire and it becomes a trend across the nation, and then eventually sometimes the norm in library service.
Thank you very much, Mandy.
Okay, thank you. I was just wondering if we see ourselves up in the top tier, either now or aspiring to it among libraries.
This is Kira. I would say that we are starting to get there, to be quite honest, and especially with the Open Plus technology that Mandy and myself just mentioned, that has definitely been one of the first initiatives that I personally have had other public library systems calling Scottsdale Public to find out how we're implementing this and how have we gotten through some of the barriers with this, how are we addressing the challenges associated with opening up a library branch without staff. So I think that we are definitely getting there, and using this technology is getting there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be a really exciting long-term outcome, wouldn't it, too? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so great. Thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome. And Board Member Hartman, I did make note to adjust the language there on the anticipated key issues. So we'll make sure if you guys can approve this, understanding that I'll make that language change, that would be great.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the 2020 annual report?
This is Sheila. I move we approve the 2020 annual report.
I
second that. This is Janet Smigelski. I second that.
And then we need to do a roll call vote. So we'll start Sheila Collins.
Approve.
Sheila Raymond, approve. Sam Campana. Sam, are you there? We'll come back. Frida Hartman.
Approved.
Fred Klein.
Approve.
Marna McClendon.
Approved.
Janet Smigelski.
Approve.
Sam Campana.
Approve.
Thank you. So all in favor, none of this, excuse me, that motion will pass. And then now is the discussion on the library board chair term. Kira?
And Chair Raymond, I should let you know that board member Marna McClendon has her hand raised.
Oh, sorry, Marna. Did you have a question?
No, I was going to second, but so I'm sorry. I tried to lower my hand.
Not a problem. Technology, we want to make sure everybody's is paid attention to and nobody's neglected. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so Chair Raymond, ready? Okay, All right, so item number 3 is discussion on the library board chair term. And this has been a topic that we have talked about in the past. And basically, what I want to do is share with all of you the process that we would go through in order to be able to amend or change the way that our bylaws are written relative to the library board chair term. Right now, a library board chair is elected, they serve 1 term, and they cannot succeed themselves. We would, based on the feedback from the library board, actually for 2+ years now, the experience seems that once a library board chair gets in and they get going, and this year especially, it seems as if they're just, hitting the ground running, and then all of a sudden their term is over. That's some of the feedback I've heard in the past. So it would be nice to be able to have that library board chair succeed themselves for 1 term. So the intent of this potential item, and I appreciate City Attorney Kim Campbell being on the line to help me get through this topic if there's specific questions, but the intent was for me just to share with you what that process would look like to change the bylaws so that our library board chair could succeed themselves for 1 term. And what that process would be is there is an ordinance that covers how the library board works. So before we change the bylaws, we would need to have council approval to change the ordinance. So that would simply be going to city council, writing a council action report, bringing up the change that we would like to make. Once and if council approves that, then it would come back to the library board for review to amend the bylaws to reflect that change. So that would be the process. And I was hoping to just have a little bit of discussion around this. And again, Attorney Kim Campbell's on the line to help we get through this if you have any specific questions. But Kim, did I cover that accurately?
Hi, this is Kim Campbell. Yes, Kira, you did cover it perfectly. Thank you.
So any questions about that from the board on this topic?
This is Frida. I have a question, Frida Hartman. So how would this affect the nomination and vote on the chair or vice chair of the board? And let me also add that in some other committees and boards that I've been on in the past, what's happened there is that when the chair has a 2-year term, in the 2nd year of that term, a vice chair is voted on who serves under that chair for 1 year, and then that vice chair becomes chair in the subsequent year. So you have like 1 year of someone working very closely with the current chair, and then they come in, assuming they're voted to take that seat in the following. So back to my question, what effect would this be on the vice chair position?
Kim, I can take a stab at that, and then you please correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think it would have any impact on the vice chair necessarily. That's an interesting concept, and I can understand why they would do that. But I think this would really focus on the term of the library board chair. So if I can talk through this, it would be the board chair being able to succeed themselves for 1 year. But Kim, unless you think otherwise, the vice chair would be voted on annually.
This is Kim Campbell. Yes. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, this is Sheila Collins. I think if I understand it, the chair would, sorry, my dog, the chair would be voted on annually as well. It's not a 2-year term.
Right, correct.
It is simply the opportunity, if so chosen by themselves, they could step down after 1 year, or if decided by the vote of the board, but the option is there.
Thank you, yes. And Kim, do you want to make comment?
That was going to be my comment. Thank you, Sheila.
So Board Member Hartman, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, I think that the answer was really along the lines of making this an optional action for the current chair to run another year, as opposed to saying when someone gets elected as chair, it's a 2-year term.
Thank you. I'm sorry. Yes,
right.
That is exactly right. I'm sorry if I confused everybody on that. It would just be the option to succeed themselves for a 2nd term.
Okay, that helps. Thank you.
Okay.
And I would point out, again, this is Sheila Collins, that they can succeed. They can be chair more than once now. This is my 2nd term as chair, but it cannot be in subsequent years as we stand today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
This
so,
is Sheila Raymond. I'm sorry, just
Oh,
one
no,
thing
no, go
about
ahead.
the vice chair position, that I served as vice chair for 2 years.
Mhm.
There
Mhm.
wasn't a limit on the vice chair position, so if that helps Frida as well.
Yeah, this is Frida, and I think I just wanted to get some clarity, make sure I understood how that would affect like the vice chair and whether we would vote on each position each year or not. And the question was answered, so thank you.
Okay, yes, perfect. So if the library board is in agreement, then I will continue, down this road. I'll work with Kim Campbell and we will work on getting the ordinance changed through city council and then bring it back to the library board to amend the bylaws.
Should we not have a vote on this?
Let me see what the agenda says. Information discussion on possible recommendation to council. So yes, we can do a vote if you guys all agree with moving forward with this process.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Sheila Collins?
Excuse me,
Yes,
Go ahead.
sorry. Fred?
I do have a question. We're voting on the optional second term for the chair, but not for the vice chair. The vice chair would remain as is, 1 year at a time.
Correct.
The
And
chair would be 1 year at a time as well. They just would have an election and they'd
But
have the
no-
opportunity.
But no presumption that the vice chair would become the chair.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
This
Okay.
is Kim Campbell. I'm not sure if we received a motion first. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Sorry about that. Can we get someone to make a motion on the, for Kira to move forward with Kim's assistance to take the steps necessary to change the bylaw?
I'll move that.
Thank you, Fred. Second?
Second?
I'll
This is-
second. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Frida.
Yep, second. Thank you.
Frida, second. Okay, then we're going to do a roll call vote. Since we're not in the room together, we need to call by name. So Sheila Collins,
My vote is nay.
Sheila Raymond, yes. Sam Campana,
Aye.
Frida Hartman,
My vote is yes.
Fred Klein,
Yes.
Marna McClendon,
Yes,
and Janet Smigelsky.
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is approved. Kira, if you would take the next steps and report back to us, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you, Kim, for your help.
thank you very much. All right, we will move forward.
Okay, the next part of the agenda here is the quarterly report. Natalie Mitchell, acting management analyst, will share the second quarter statistics, including library use metrics and financial information for fiscal year 2020 to 21. And we are going to have the information given to us and we can discuss this issue. Natalie?
Yes, hello, thank you. All right, so we've got the second quarter department summary for library systems. Next slide, please. All right, so this is our year-to-date physical gate count. As you can see, we are at 29% of what we were at this time last year. Next slide, please. All right, and this is our year-to-date physical gate count by library. As you can see, Mustang had the most, followed by Civic Center, then Appaloosa, then Arabian. Next slide, please. This is our Civic Center curbside service. So if we're looking at the months October through December, which is the second quarter, we can see that November had the highest gate count. Next slide, please. All right, and for Mustang drive-through window, again, if we're looking at the same time frame, October through December, December had the highest gate count for the drive-through. Next slide, please. This is for Arabian drive-through. Again, same time frame, October through December. November was a high gate count month for them as well. Next slide.
Excuse me, Natalie, this is Becky.
Yes.
I see that Fred Klein has his hand up. Do you want to
No,
answer?
not anymore.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you had a question, Fred.
All right, thank you so much, Becky. All right, so moving on to the Appaloosa drive-through window, if we're looking at October through December, November had the highest gate count for that month. Thank you.
And Natalie, this is Kira. And I don't know if you want to take questions at the end. I'm just noticing hand raises. Do you have a preference? Because I see Board Member Hartman has her hand raised. Do you want to answer as they come, or do you want to wait till the end?
May we wait till the end for questions, please?
Okay, perfect. Board Member Hartman, I assume you're going to ask a question about Natalie's report. Do you mind waiting till the end?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Natalie, thank you. That'll help us. And we'll monitor the hand raises, but wait till the end. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right, so this is our year-to-date library digital gate count. This is made up of our library catalog account logins plus our Pegasus virtual library webpage visits. So if we're looking at our current year-to-date number, we're at 107% of what we were at this time last year. Next slide, please. And then this is our Pegasus virtual library webpage visits. So this was a new service that was started this year. So if we're looking at the second quarter, we've definitely seen an upward trend in total page views at 1936. Next slide, please. All right, and this is a, sorry about that. This is a timeline of our database maintenance project. And this provides context for the following slide because you do see a downward trend in library card holders. But to put it briefly, essentially, we started deleting accounts that were inactive for 2 or more years. So instead of deleting a bunch of accounts at one time, they were done over a period of years. So this is just a timeline of when that occurred. Next slide, please. All right, and then if we look at, this is our library card holders. So if we look at 2021, our current number is 89,272. So this is an accurate reflection of how many active library card holders we have in the system. Next slide, please. And this is library card holders for each library. So as you can see, Civic Center has the most card holders, followed by Mustang, then Appaloosa, then Arabian. Next slide, please. All right, and this is our internal usage. Our internal usage is our physical circulation, plus our Wi-Fi use, plus our computer use. So for our current year-to-date number, we are at 52% of what we were at this time last year. Next slide, please. This is our remote use. Our remote use is our database use, plus our Ask a Librarian service, plus our e-circulation, plus answered calls and call center. So our remote use is currently at 127% of what we were at this time last year. So we've definitely seen an upward trend in remote use. Next slide, please. This is our total use, which is our internal with our remote added. And we are currently at 76% of what we were at this time last year. And I'd like to draw your attention to the 2021 second quarter at the top there. Far right. And as you can see, remote use is higher than internal use. Next slide, please. And this is our remote use breakdown to give you a more graphic portrayal. So e-circulation makes up the bulk of this formula. And then that's followed by our database use, number of calls answered, and then our Ask a Librarian service. Next slide, please. This is our total circulation, which is our e-circulation plus our physical circulation. So if you look at the far right, that is our current second quarter circulation. So we're a little bit lower than the first quarter, but we're definitely much higher than the fourth quarter. Thank you. All right, and this is our virtual programs and attendance. So at the top, we have our virtual programs. For the second quarter, we had more virtual programming offered. So the blue column is the total number of programs offered. So we definitely had a higher number of programs offered. And if you look at our attendance, we definitely had a higher attendance for the second quarter as well. Next slide, please. And then this is our computer use and our Wi-Fi use. So for the current year, if you look at the far right, we're definitely lower than subsequent years, but this was due to reduced operational hours as well as building closures due to COVID-19. Next slide, please. All right, and that's the conclusion of the second quarter library metrics. Did anyone have any questions?
Natalie, this is Kira. I'll help you. And I know that, all right, Board Member Hartman. I'll ask Board Member Hartman can go, and then I see Chair Raymond and then Board Member Klein. I'll keep an eye on the hands. So Board Member Hartman.
Sure, thank you very much. I'm looking at the slides identifying the data on the drive-through window usage, and those are at the early part of the package here. And I'm looking specifically at the Arabian and Appaloosa data drive-through. And I'm wondering, it's showing that there are some peaks in May, August, November. Do we have an idea of why it peaked at that time?
Board Member Hartman, this is Kira, and I'll have the senior libraries chime in if they can think of anything else. And I'm trying to think back to when our summer reading program began, but I also know that if you're talking about those times too, I think more and more people were aware of the drive-through option as well. But similar to you, I've kind of looked at this to see like, can we tell why some of these peaks and valleys? And outside of that, I'm not sure if I have a complete answer to that. I don't know if Senior Manager Mandy Carrico might have an opinion on that as well. Mandy, do you? Mandy might be muted.
Yeah, I just unmuted.
Okay.
Yeah, when looking at that, it's just some weeks were higher than others. I did look to see if those had extra weeks in them. Or also we did experiment with hours at Arabian and Appaloosa, trying to find the best usage with the staff that we had. But we have found just the use would, yeah, I mean, you can see that Mustang also peaks, not as highly, but also peaks, even though they were open. More people using it.
This is Becky. Can I just mention one other thing?
Yeah, please, Becky.
May seems like 5 years ago, I think, for most of us, but we were actually closed. Our buildings were closed in May. All of our buildings, Mandy, please correct me if I'm wrong, but so
you are not. They were.
All of our buildings were closed. They did not reopen until June. And so the only way you could pick something up is to go through a drive-through.
Oh, good point, Becky.
So it does seem like 5 years ago, but it was this May, and that's a big driver, especially for the Mustang facility, because that branch obviously covers basically everything north, even sort of central and north. So if you think of, Palomino, Patrons, and Civic Center was closed. So Civic Center people had to go up to Mustang to get their holds. Thank you.
Very good comment, Becky.
Kira, this is Melissa.
Oh,
I'd like to add also that we did have a very active summer reading program this year, even though many libraries in the Valley did not. And there were lots of handouts and give outs that were only available at the drive-through or at our curbside delivery or inside the branches that were open. And August is obviously one of our hottest months, whether we're open or closed. And I believe the numbers for that month has always been pretty high in comparison over the years.
Thank you, Melissa. Good observation, Board Member Hartman.
Thank you.
Okay, and next, Chair Raymond.
Hi, thank you. I don't know who's going to be able to answer this, probably a combination. There's a couple of questions I have about slide 11 with the library card holders. Yes. Could you explain why the number is going down, and for the benefit of the new board members, why that is important to track the number as you are? And then there's another question after this.
Okay, I'm going to try. I'll take the first attempt at this, and then I know I might rely on Becky Gallivan Butler to help. But Amy, can you go back to the slide that gave context to this? So as Natalie was noting before, that we really do have a library cardholder database project where we really want to make sure that our database of library cardholders is one of integrity, so that we really have an accurate reflection of library cardholders that are using our library system. So this started, and then we'll go back to that to the next slide here, but in 17-18, that's when we started requiring people to renew their library cards. So Becky can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe prior to fiscal year 17-18, it would be that you would get a library card and it would never expire. You would never have to renew. Is that right, Becky?
Yes, Kira, that is correct. Thank you.
So that, of course, was just people, you know, when people move, they change addresses, they stop using the library. So really in 17-18, we started making sure that everybody would renew their library card annually. Then in 18-19, we did this first large deletion, as it says here, of accounts of patrons who had not used their library in over 2 years. So our system can keep track of that. You know, so if you hadn't used a library card in 2 years, we would delete you, delete your library card. That sounds negative, but we would delete the library card. 19-20 was a second deletion of accounts for patrons who had not used the library card in 2 years. And you'll see the numbers associated with these deletions that we did. And then just recently in 2021, we did our final deletion of cards that had been expired for 2 years or more. And there were 24 patron records. So really, nobody ever likes to see library card holders go on the decline, but it was really important to our system to have an accurate number of people who are actively using the library and using their library cards. From this data, then we can decide, okay, once we get through COVID-19, or maybe even now, we need to, you know, figure out new and exciting ways to get people to get a library card, and not just get it, but to use it and to use the library.
Thank you, Kira. Does it also have to do with funding?
I don't know if I would say funding. No, I mean, because really, even now, and we're experiencing these challenges of, you know, significantly reduced library hours, but we're offsetting that with the digital usage and the e-resources and the contactless service. So I would not say that necessarily the decline in library cards is a direct correlation to budget reductions, even though we've experienced that this year and in, you know, our upcoming fiscal year.
Okay. And then my last question regarding this issue is sometimes the people, we've discussed this when we discussed going fine free, and that is people have fines and they don't come back because they can't afford to pay the fines. Have we reached out to people to let them know that if the items have been returned, but they have these fines, that they could get their library card renewed?
Chair Raymond, that's a great question. And yes, we are actually focusing more on promoting our fine-free status and educating our users on what that means. So yes, we are working towards that. And in addition to that, we're also, and I'm going to say it's been difficult because we're trying to do a fine-free evaluation. You know, what impacts has being a fine-free library had? And because of COVID and because our public library world has been turned upside down, it's very difficult to compare data during COVID and being fine-free. As you know, we were approved fine-free right in April, right when the pandemic was starting. So, but we are paying attention to the data that we have relative to fine-free library card holders and use. So hopefully that answers your question.
It does. I'm specifically, in my mind, was thinking about the youth fines, that maybe they could benefit from the library again, but the mom says, hey, you've got these fines and I can't pay them. You know, if we could get that resolved and the youth could get their card renewed.
Right. That is hopefully, that is our goal with the kind of, we're having a focus on education around fine-free.
Yes. And Kira, you're trying to do so many things, and it's hard to do a lot of this stuff remotely and get a hold of people when they're not able to physically have contact as easily as what we've done prior. So thank you. I appreciate
you're very welcome. Very welcome. Okay. And next, going down the list here, Board Member McClendon.
Thank you. Natalie, this may or may not actually relate to your statistics in the quarterly report, but in my last book discussion group, it was mentioned that our digital usage is second only to like the New York City Library. So I'm wondering, does digital use equate to e-circulation? And do we have any information about how we're doing compared to some other libraries?
And Natalie, if you want, I feel like this might be a question that Becky and I might have to answer to that. So Becky, feel like you're
Yes.
closer to this topic than I am, but do you have comment on that?
Sure. Yes. Good question, Marna. The reference that you had mentioned is actually referring to the Greater Phoenix Digital Library, which is a consortium of libraries in mostly Maricopa County, but there's a few outside of Maricopa County that we all purchase materials for the Overdrive collection. So when we talk about Overdrive, it's really the same thing as Greater Phoenix Digital Library. They're synonymous, but people call them different things. So what you had mentioned is exactly right. We're one of the largest consortiums that Overdrive has, and our circulation as a consortium as a whole, so not just Scottsdale Public, but this includes Phoenix Public Library, includes Maricopa County Library District, ourselves, Goodyear. There's, I think, maybe 7 or 8 members. Our overall circulation is in the top 2 to 3 every year of all circulation for Overdrive customers. So now to answer your question about is e-material circulation the same as digital? Yes, that's generally the same. Overdrive is our largest e-circulating collection. So we have other collections as well. But yes, generally e-material circulation is the same as digital circulation.
Thank you, Becky.
Yeah.
That really does make sense. And I still feel really good that we're one part of an outstanding collaborative effort with Greater Phoenix and that it's doing so well.
Yes, thank you. It's really an excellent partnership that we get to benefit. We all put our money in and we can buy more as a group than we could individually. And so really everyone benefits. So it's thank you for mentioning that. It's a good way to promote Overdrive, which is very popular. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Yep, there looks like there's a few more board members. Smigelski?
Hi, yes, I just want to say thank you to Kira, Becky, everyone, Natalie, everyone that's put together these statistics and this data analysis. Years ago, we did not have this, and we asked for it and we got it, and we received this information well in advance of the meeting so we can analyze it and come up with our questions. So I think this is just so significant, and I really want to thank everyone for putting this information together. I think it's extremely valuable to understand the library and see where the library is headed. So I just wanted to make that comment. Thank you.
Well, that's very much appreciated. And I think I want to add to that it really is important for us as a leadership team here in the library to use the metrics and the data to help us make our decisions for the public library. So again, I'll reference the slide. You know, I do not like to see library card holders. Nobody does going down, but it's an accurate reflection of what's happening right now so that we can make a plan to move forward. So I appreciate you saying those words. And Becky, thank you for the comprehensive answer to that. So Chair Raymond, I believe that those were all the raised hands. I see your hand is still raised, and Chair and Board Member Smigelski's is, but I'm assuming that we've answered your questions. Oh, and now they're down.
Hello.
Great.
Oh, and Board Member Klein, did you have a question?
I have a couple of questions and an observation.
Okay.
Question one, what's the effective date of the Palomino Library closing?
Ooh, that's a good question. We closed that library at the ending of fiscal of the 1920 fiscal year. So last June.
6/20. Okay. Another question. What happened to the Palomino usage figures? How have they been incorporated into the present data? We have one fewer library than we used to.
That's a great question. And that one has been, again, difficult to track. I might look to Mandy to answer some of the questions about card holders that were a Palomino and did we transfer them, like now that Palomino's closed, we're making you a Mustang Library card holder. But really, I guess my high level answer to that would be really that Palomino Library users, what we anticipate was that they would go to Mustang, Arabian, and Appaloosa. But again, all this was happening during COVID when Appaloosa and Arabian, those branches were closed. So The other
I
thing,
can answer part
yeah,
of that.
please. Thank you, Mandy.
I will say that there was a short period of time when Palomino users were able to make their selections for a different home branch, but that was cut off because of COVID when the school closed and libraries closed. So everyone who didn't make a selection was automatically transferred to Mustang Library. So all card holders that were Palomino are now Mustang Library unless they've changed.
Thank you, Mandy.
Okay, and an observation about usage, it seems to me that people load up on library books before they leave for vacation. And that's June and August. Those that probably accounts for the increases in those months.
Yeah, probably so. And good. Any other questions? Okay, and I just want to give special recognition for Natalie for working hard to put this together because it's an impressive PowerPoint. It's very, very good data for us. So Natalie, thank you for presenting all this great information.
Thank you, Kira.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the patron comment report. Kira will present and discuss library patron comments in the monthly report to the board, and this is where we will discuss if you have any questions. There isn't any voting involved. It's just a matter of having comments that on the patron comment report. Kira?
Thank you very much, Chair Raymond. So I do have, and I'll of course entertain any questions as well, but I went through these and just want to address some of the things that stuck out to me as we were reading through these. And one of the first ones was a patron that was unhappy with our renewing of library cards online and what that process looks like. And I just wanted to make sure that the board understood renewing online is a new feature that was implemented as a direct result of COVID-19 because people could not come into the library branches, and we're going to continue to offer this service. And it really is important for us to make sure that we are verifying if somebody is registering and renewing online. And I'm directly referencing this first comment here about the website and the renewal process. And this patron was upset with the way that we were trying to verify that we were verifying address. And when library branches are open, and say, for example, Becky Gallen Van Butler comes in to renew her card, she can verify right there that her address is still current and accurate, and show a picture ID, and then we verify and renew her card. This new online process is, like I just said, new, and really it's the only way. By verifying somebody's address via a utility bill, we're not allowed to have people scan in their driver's license numbers for identity security reasons. Having patrons have to provide proof of address is one way for us to just make sure we know where they at. This is where they're living, they're borrowing our materials, we're just verifying their address, and we know that that's who they are. Oh, okay. Oh, tell that to, I'm sorry, Mandy just popped in my office. Amy's running the slideshow. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that I know that this patron was not happy with the process, but that this is part of our protocol so that we make sure we know, who patrons are that are borrowing our materials, so that if we need to get them back, we can make sure to contact them appropriately. That was the one thing I noticed and I wanted to elaborate on. You'll also see one of the comments, the second one down, is about the computer times and the express computers. And really right now, although I know that patrons want to be on those computers longer than 1 hour, we really are being very cautious and careful with the amount of people that are congregating around the public computers. And we just are limiting that amount of time to discourage people from hanging out in the library for too long. So we are going to keep that 1 hour time limit in place until we start seeing the COVID numbers decreasing and that it's safe to do that. Also, that particular comment addressed getting a DVD player. And right now, the PCs that we have out on the floor, they do have the capability for a DVD to go into it, so patrons can watch a DVD. I understand that this is hard when we only have an hour time limit. So to sit there and watch a movie, you're not going to be able to do that. But the public PCs do have those DVDs. And as I get through making my comments, I'll make sure to go through and look at the hand raises. So we got a positive, the other comment here, which was pretty long, is about the mask wearing. And again, with COVID-19, we have got public library staff that are interacting directly with the public, both in the branches and in the drive-through windows. So we will constantly be approaching people to ask them to wear a mask. Of course, if somebody has a health reason that they cannot wear a mask, we understand that we cannot make them wear a mask. We do, as a courtesy, offer a face shield. For them. They do not have to wear the face shield, but I know that this particular comment, which was lengthy, was really frustrated with library staff continually talking about the mask. And that is just something, you know, we've got staff that switch positions. It's hard for everybody to know exactly who somebody talked to, but I fully support the library staff making sure that we're being as safe as we possibly can so that we can keep our libraries open. So while it might be a little bit of a hassle for someone to be maybe asked a couple of times to wear the mask and for them to let us know that they have a health reason for not wearing it, you know, we'll do our best to communicate as a staff to avoid that. But the greater priority for our system is to keep the public and our staff safe. So we're going to continue to do that with the mask wearing. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is donations. There's a comment there on donations, and I think that's a common question. Just wanted everybody to know that the library is accepting donations at the book drop donations at each of the branches. So that is definitely happening. And I think those are the significant ones that I wanted to address, and I'm happy to answer any questions from anybody else, or if you guys want us to talk about any of the other comments. And I see that Board Member Hartman has her hand raised.
Yes, thank you. I have a comment and a question, and the comment is that we know that there are some people who are truly trying to be extremely careful in the COVID, era that we're in right now, in what they touch and, sanitizing and all of that. And in light of that, I'm wondering if we have received any comments from patrons about that issue with regard to books and checking out books, and a concern about, have they been sanitized or cleaned at all between the times that they are checked out by patrons, and how would we address that concern maybe?
Right. Great question, Board Member Hartman. And really, at the beginning of the pandemic, we did have a process to where we called it quarantining the books, where we would keep them out of circulation for 72 hours once returned. But once our branches started opening up and with the floating collection, that was no longer a realistic way to operate. But at that time, at the beginning of the pandemic, we did have a lot of questions and concerns about how are you going to sanitize the books? And quite honestly, there's outside of that 72-hour quarantine period where we kept them out, our answer to people was there's really no, we can't wipe them down. We can't spray them with a disinfectant. In my opinion, and the senior library managers can chime in, that has definitely, those comments from the public have definitely gone down since spring of last year. And I think people are understanding, and there's more information, around the fact, and I'm not a scientist, but how long a virus can live on surfaces and materials. So that has not been, at least from my standpoint, as much of a concern from our public in terms of sanitation of books now.
Kara, this is Mandy, and I can chime in.
Yeah, thank you, Mandy.
You are correct that we don't hear a whole lot on those comments. However, if any patrons do have a concern, we do tell them to please not sanitize the items because that would ruin a lot of them. But we can, they can put in a plastic bag and leave it for 3 days before touching it. That would quarantine them. Basically, they can conduct their own quarantine of items, but we rarely get those comments.
Thanks, Mandy.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions on the patron comments?
I have a question, please.
Sure.
Regarding the handling of books, do any of the library associations have guidelines as to how this should be done? Every library in the country probably has the same problem.
Board Member Klein, I'm not sure if I know if there is a specific guideline, and definitely public libraries communicated with each other, and we still do during the pandemic. And like I mentioned before, the the process that seemed the most common that public libraries were doing was to do an attempt on quarantine the books as we did, because like Mandy mentioned before, you would ruin the material if you were wiping things down. So I don't think there was an official, you have to follow this policy, but the quarantining seemed to be the most reasonable way for public libraries to navigate through that particular concern.
And Kara, this is Mandy. I'll also add to answer Fred's question that the American Library Association does have research on materials, so that libraries can choose to put into effect what would work best for them.
Thanks, Mandy. They're a good
Thank you.
resource.
Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to move on? Any other hands up or anything, Kara?
Let me do a quick scan here, Chair Raymond. It looks like no. We are ready to move on.
Agenda number 6, library material home delivery program presentation and policy update. Jennifer Wong Ortiz, Library Outreach Coordinator, will present on the updates and policy to the library's material delivery program. The library recommend approval of the updated policy, and we're going to discuss this, get the information from Jennifer, discuss this, and there may, if we decide we want to recommend approval of the policy, we may need to vote on this. So, Jennifer?
Thank you, Chair Raymond. I think I started on this in the January meeting, and unfortunately it was during this presentation that the Zoom decided to crash. So
I thought it was me.
and I apologize. I don't remember how far we got through on this, so I'm just going to start over from scratch. So the previous policy for home delivery service was adopted back in 2005, which when I took over the program I should say last year in 2020, I realized that it's been 15 years since it's been updated. So some of the verbiage and the language is not current anymore with how we refer to our patrons in the library. So I just kind of went through, made sure that everything that was on this policy reflects what's on our website, and updated some of the verbiage. I defined that the library delivers books to patrons who have no means of getting to the library, rather than just saying homebound, because I know that some people are curious about what homebound really truly means. In the regulations, I just changed the verbiage of customers to patrons for all of them. I did, number 3 is an addition. I added patrons reside within the city of Scottsdale or within 5 miles of the city of Scottsdale. While I was going over the program last spring, I realized that we had at least one patron that was in the area code of 85253, which is technically Paradise Valley, but they are close enough to Scottsdale. They were not very far from Mustang Library, that I did not feel comfortable saying, no, you can't, use a service because you're in Paradise Valley, since we do have very many patrons that are within 5 miles of our city that do use our city libraries that are not close to another library in the valley. I added number 5, patrons must have an active library card in good standing. And then number 6 which was to say patrons must complete a homebound delivery application and agree to all guidelines as stated on the application. Due to the fact that when I was going through, some of the homebound delivery applications were very, very old and hadn't been updated. And so I wanted to make sure that all the patrons were aware that when they agree to or apply to be accepted, that they needed to make sure they adhere to all the guidelines. I did take out the procedures, and then this other pages was the application, simply because these things change quite frequently, or could change quite frequently. When I was going through the procedures, I realized that since it hadn't been updated in 15 years, supervisor volunteers was no longer the person doing it. And there were just some other changes that I wanted to make sure that if we needed to quickly adapt our procedure or our application, it could be done so without having to go through an official process of making sure that everything was in the policy manual, since they were more procedural updates rather than policy updates. And then the next one was the application that I had used the old one and just simply kind of reformatted a little bit. That way with the home delivery service application, I just wanted to make it very clearly that all of the, that an active library card is required, and that they can submit an application if they don't have a library card yet. That what I did go make sure I went through legal to say that they can mail in a copy of their utility bill and a piece of postmarked mail that mirrors our online card registration form so that they can also get a library card. One of the things that we found out in the previous cycles was that we weren't always adhering to the library card policy of creating library cards with our homebound delivery service patrons. The eligibility requirements are the same that are on the website. And then with the guidelines, I added to have them initial there so that they know when they're reading through that they are actually reading through and understanding what they are agreeing to. They also get a copy of the guidelines. So if they ever need to refer to anything, they could do so. And they also have my phone number down here as well, as long as the outreach coordinator is the one doing this program. Does anyone have any questions? I didn't want to go through each bullet point, but I can if anybody needs me to. Chair Raymond?
Yeah, how are you reaching out to people so that they know about this program? I admit I didn't know we had this opportunity until it came up on our agenda.
So right now it's under our accessibility services. I haven't promoted it very much because I wanted to make sure that the policy was approved by the board before I started to really go out and market this to the community. I just filmed an upcoming segment for one of our adult services programs for the Mustang in the Stacks program, kind of talking about this program and the service. I do plan on making sure that it is on our social media. And I was also going to, I know right now I had reached out to the human services director, Greg Bestian, senior services, because they help a lot with the homebound seniors in our community. They're currently busy with the COVID-19 vaccination rollout, but I do plan to hopefully touch base with them and see how many of their homebound seniors might be interested in such a program.
Thank you. I appreciate the information. Are there any other questions? Any hands up?
I am not seeing any other hands up, Chair Raymond.
So let's, if I can get somebody to make a motion to approve the updated policies that Jennifer presented to us. Can I get a motion?
I'll move.
Go ahead.
Fred?
Yeah, I'll move, yeah.
Okay, and second, Janet?
I'll second. Janet Smigelski.
Thank you. So let's do a roll call vote. And we'll start at the beginning of the list here. Sheila Collins?
Approve.
Sheila Raymond, approve. Sam Campana? Frida Hartman?
Yes, I approve.
Okay. Fred Klein?
I approve. It looks like an excellent program.
It does. Marta McClendon?
Approve.
Janet Smigelski?
Approve.
Sam Campana? Okay. The majority has it, so we approve. And Jennifer, thank you for your hard work on this. I personally did not, as I said, did not know about this program, and there was a point in my life where I would have really benefited from it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair Raymond. Thank you, board members.
Great. The next one is the library board orientation. Kira, the library director, I'm repeating this, will present the recent orientation activity provided by library staff to new board members and on ideas for continued engagement between the board, library staff, and the public. This is an issue for us to get the information and discuss. And it really is something that Sheila Collins and actually Teresa brought up, that when we have new members, we're trying to get everything packed in, and we had a lot of new members come on board, and we want to make sure everybody has a firm base of information and then build upon that. So Kira, if you go ahead and take that away.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair Raymond. So right, yes, and the library staff wants to make sure our library board members feel in the know and connected. And of course, we know COVID has made that more challenging in the past. But right now, and I want to recognize and thank Jennifer Wong-Ortiz, who is just presenting on the home delivery, because Jennifer, who works with Melissa to do our outreach, really worked hard to make sure that our library board, especially our new members, got an orientation. So right now, this packet, which is just a little snippet of what Jennifer mailed out to people, is just the information that we included and we mailed out to our new board members. We're always happy to mail this out or email it to any board member if they want it. Along with this, Jennifer also reviewed a PowerPoint presentation with our new board members. And that PowerPoint presentation, most of our older members had seen in the past when we presented this. So the new board members received this packet, and they also had a virtual orientation with Jennifer. What we also did was I reached out, or Amy helped me reach out to library board members, the new board members, excuse me, just for me to have a little one-on-one conversation, or if the board member felt comfortable to meet in person. So I had a great conversation with board member Frida Hartman about ways that we can engage. And one of the things, Frida, I was chuckling because you are a great idea person. One of board member Hartman's ideas was we could do a virtual tour of a library for the board members, which I'm thinking about, even if you just used an iPhone and walked around just briefly to say, this is Arabian, this is Mustang, here's a drive-through service in action, that we could do something like that to share virtually at a board meeting if the board was so interested, just to kind of have the experience of what it's like inside the public libraries, even our branches that are closed but are providing drive-through service, or here at Civic Center Curbside, so you could get a snippet of that. Additionally, we thought it would be a good idea to even maybe do a little interview with a library board member that Jennifer Wong-Ortiz could maybe post out on Facebook, or we could put on the library's webpage, meet your board members, and we could do a little video segment that way. But I met in person with board member Klein at Mustang Library. We met wearing masks and kept social distance so that he could see Mustang Library. He's the liaison there. He met Medina Zick, who's the branch manager, and received a tour of Mustang Library. So those are just some of the ways that we want to make sure our library board feels connected, and that we're always here to answer questions and make sure that you feel comfortable with how the library is operating, since you are a liaison to the community. So it's really nice for you all to be in the loop on what's happening, and that's challenging in these times because we're changing fast to keep up with the changes in the community, and especially in a pandemic. So those are some of the things that we're doing. And again, I know we focused on our board members because Chair Raymond is right. We've got 3 new board members. So we really focused on our new members, but I want to make sure that all board members know we're happy to do this work with any of you if you so choose. So that's my report on that, Chair Raymond.
Thank you, Kira. And I'm glad you guys took the time you and the staff took the time to put all of this together for us. It does help to have everything all presented and available to us when we need it. And if we, as the ones who've been on the board for a short time, maybe need a refresher, that would be good. Okay, next item is the director's report. Kira,
okay, and I think, Chair Raymond, before we go to that, I do see that Board Member Klein has his hand raised, and I don't know if Board Member Klein, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to thank Kira and Sheila. Both of them took their time to have meetings with me last month, and I think I learned a lot. So thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. And he was referring to Sheila Collins, just for clarification. Okay, so the next item is the director's report, and Kira providing the library board with a brief summary of the events in the library. We cannot discuss or vote on items not on the agenda, including the items brought up as in the director's report. If discussion or action by the board is required, the item needs to be put on the upcoming meeting agenda so that we can be consistent with the Arizona open meeting law. So that's just really important, and that this is really information only at this point. Kira?
Thank you, Chair Raymond, and I appreciate you saying that. And that is why Amy and I thought it would be better to put the director's report at the ending of our meeting. That way, if there is something that I talk about that you all would like on the agenda, it'll be easier for easier for us to note that at the ending for future agenda items. So I really appreciate you reviewing that. So this is high-level director's report of the things that are happening here in the library. And Amy, if you could go to the next slide, please. First and foremost, we are getting so close to being prepared to open up the Pony Express at Appaloosa, which is our library self-service model that we referenced before. Brief update on this. We are planning to launch this new service model in March. We're not yet ready to give a firm date on that because we are waiting for a couple of key things to happen. And number one, that is getting a door installed, a new door that will hook nicely with our access control panel. That door is in the midst of, if it's not already here, going to be installed by the ending of this month. We have our fingers crossed for that, as well as the access control panel, which is going to be the device that our Pony Express users will scan their library card to get in. We are going to be doing a navigational audit on February 25th, which is a Thursday. And I invited a few of the board members. We are again being very cautious of COVID safety protocols, so we don't want big groups. So I didn't invite everybody to this navigational audit, but the intent of this audit is the library staff, specifically at Appaloosa, and with working with Becky, Mandy, and Lee Schnorr, our IT staff, they've worked really hard to make sure this library is set and ready for the public to come in without any staff on the floor and know how to use the library. So there's been a lot of time spent on signage, information videos, how-tos, and Melissa Orr and her team have worked on that as well with our graphic designer. So now that we have all this collateral to support information at a self-service, at a library self-service, we want to run a test to see if our users will know what to do. So on this day, this navigational audit day, auditors will come in, they will get a sheet of paper that gives them some things like, okay, Chair Raymond, please see if you can find this book or see if you can get on a public PC. We're going to give them each a little exercise to see how easily they can navigate that library and do library work and access our resources without staff on the floor. So that is going to be a component that we want to make sure we evaluate before opening. Again, I mentioned an informational video. So we have worked with Scottsdale Video Network to film a very professional looking general information video, because this, again, is a very new service. It's not just new for Scottsdale, it's new for Arizona and public libraries in Arizona. So we want to make sure that the board, the library board, our city council, our city manager, everybody is in the loop on this new service. So that we can answer any questions and be prepared to help our council members answer any questions if people have concerns. Most specifically, and we've talked about this before, people always wonder about safety. How our library materials are going to be kept safe? What if somebody were to have an accident in the library and there's no staff on the floor? And we have a plan in place for all of that. So the informational video just got completed today with our final touches, and I'll make sure to send each of you out a link as well as to the library staff before we go public. The other way we're going to inform the public about this service is we are going to have a separate web page for the Pony Express at Appaloosa. And we're really hitting home this library self-service, because again, there will be no staff on the floor. All of you know that we do have library staff in the building. They're at Appaloosa. They're operating the drive-through. There are security cameras that those staff can see. So we feel comfortable that, we've got staff in the building when the service is operating, but we really don't want the public to rely on our staff. So when the staff are back doing the drive-through, they're not going to be answering questions. The public will need to use that library as a self-service library. So that is just some general information. So more to come. Our plan is to make sure that our library staff are very comfortable with the Pony Express at Appaloosa. I'll give you all some information on it. And then that web page will go live, and we will announce when in March this service will start operating. So that is the Pony Express. Thank you, Amy. Next slide. All right, Mustang Library has been closed since the beginning of December as a result of COVID-19 and some of the direct impacts that we were managing through. We are going to be reopening that branch on Monday, March 1st. One of the differences that the public will notice is we are going to be monitoring and limiting attendance. That was one of the concerns that we had at Mustang. You all saw the numbers. Mustang has been a very busy library. So when we reopen the branch to the public, we are going to limit attendance. Right Right now, we're going to cap attendance at 75, but we want some flexibility around that, because if all 75 people say come in on a Friday afternoon at 1 o'clock and they're all congregating in that main floor, we're going to have to make some adjustments. So we're going to have some flexibility there, but we are going to be opening up on Monday, March 1st, and that will be the significant change at Mustang. I've mentioned this to everyone before, but Mustang was primarily having that particular issue of a lot of crowding on Fridays and Saturdays, because on Fridays we don't open till 1, same on Saturdays. So we understand the public's coming all at one time to get in and use the computers, talk to the staff. So we are going to be limiting attendance. The way that we are going to do that is we are going to have a deployed Parks and Recreation or another community services staff come, and they are going to be monitoring the attendance out the front. Mandy has worked hard with our graphics department to have signage out front so the public knows that we are monitoring and limiting attendance, and we'll also make sure the web reflects that as well. But we are very excited to have that branch back to being open, and I know that the public is too. Next slide, please. These are some images that were taken outside of Mustang Library. So people experiencing homelessness is a concern for our community, and it is not just a concern for our Human Services Department, it is a concern for our entire community. Right now at Mustang, the way that that library is set up, we have been having people experiencing homelessness sleeping near the library, using the restroom, not in a public restroom, but just outside at the library. So there have been some concerns there that we are working with our city's facilities department, Human Services, staff to try to help find some solutions to these challenges that, number one, that the people are experiencing, to make sure that we're being compassionate and caring and offering services and programs, hence working with Human Services, but also looking at ways with our facilities to discourage people from using a bathroom where there is not a restroom open. And hopefully when the building is open, that will ease some of that. But this is a challenge, not just for public libraries, but for our community at large. So I just wanted to share that information with the board to let you know that we are aware, and we are working with our city stakeholder, other departments, as well as stakeholders in the community to help address this issue. Next slide, please. This is just a brief update on the Storytime Room that we're going to be expanding to a new name called the Sky Room. This was a CIP project that got canceled when COVID-19 hit. It is now back to being considered a priority for next fiscal year. So 21-22 is a capital improvement project. We're very optimistic that council is going to approve the CIP funding so we can pick back up where we left off and work on expanding the Storytime Room into the Sky Room. And these are just some preliminary conceptual drawings that the architect put together for us. The plan is to get a lot more open light, expand the space so that we can do programming in the Storytime Room, which will now be called the Sky Room. So more to come on that. That CIP funding is pending council approval as part of the budget package for fiscal year 21-22. Thank you, Amy. Next slide. COVID-19 vaccines and city staff. Just wanted to share with all of you some of the work that's been going on around the COVID-19 vaccinations. And the reason I bring this up is, the public library staff are serving the public front line and are exposed a lot to general public coming in the door. So we have been struggling with, the vaccinations and being a priority, I'm not using the right terminology, frontline, a priority group to get a vaccine, which, really in general is frontline healthcare workers, paramedics, law enforcement, older adults, 65, 75 and older. We were really concerned about library staff being able to get a vaccination. Our city manager, Jim Thompson, sent out some communication to all city staff addressing some of these questions from staff. And importantly, there was some talk about the city of Mesa or the city of Chandler being able to have library staff vaccinated or be included in that priority category, which was hard to hear when you're a public library providing service too, but not necessarily considered in a priority group. But after the city manager's email came out, we really were made aware that some cities, which I did not know myself, have their very own medical staff, including registered nurses, and that they're able to vaccinate their employees. They can vaccinate, they can administer. So those cities were able to do that. The city of Scottsdale is not set up like that. We don't have that capability, but the city manager has assured us that he is working with our partners, namely Honor Health, to hopefully work out a plan sooner than later to be able to vaccinate city employees. In the past, when there's the flu vaccine, city employees can go down to different city buildings and get a flu vaccine. Hopefully we'll get to that point. We're not there yet, but the direction has been, if there's a way for city staff, library staff included, to get a vaccination at some of these other sites, and they are more and more opening up outside of the stadiums even, Walgreens, CVS, Fry's, that our city manager is encouraging us to get a vaccine any way that we can until the city can work out a plan with Honor Health. So it's important for us to keep employees safe, especially the library staff that are working frontline day in and day out with the public. And I'm happy to report that a lot of our staff, at least I know specifically here at Civic Center, have had luck getting the vaccine. So that is really good to know. Next slide, please. Just briefly, we are working on continually to work on our strategic plan, and one of those has been communication with staff. I want to commend Melissa Orr. She has got a team of staff members working together to solicit feedback from the library staff on how they like to receive information. We really are finding, I think, like with the rest of the world, information is changing. It's changing quickly. It's critical information, and we want to make sure we are doing our very best to make sure that that communication is not only consistent among the leaders of the library, that it is also getting to our frontline staff, and that we're all on the same page with honest, transparent communication. So that has been a priority for us recently. Thank you, Melissa, for your work on that. And next slide. The book bike and outreach. Interesting that we were just talking about people experiencing homelessness, because Melissa and Jennifer Wong Ortiz took the Lone Ranger out, that is the name of our book bike, took the Lone Ranger out to one of the day relief centers that the Human Services Director and the Human Service team here in Scottsdale are working with the faith community to provide services, day relief services to people experiencing homelessness. Some of those relief, some of that relief includes a place to wash your clothes and to take a shower, and there's other resources on site. For example, I think from the Phoenix Rescue Mission is one of the services. So we brought, not we, Melissa and Jennifer, they each took a turn riding the bike, rode the bike out to have some of our donated library materials were on there to offer those services out. Right now, the attendance was not too high from what Melissa reported out, but really we want to get this book bike out into the community. Outreach is very important right now, especially with people not having access to some of our library branches. Next slide. Programming fun, virtual, and planning for in-person in the future. The reason I wanted to bring this slide up is, number one, to first recognize how hard the staff have worked to pivot to provide virtual programming. And it is not just as easy as flipping on a camera and doing a program. They plan it out, they get the content, they get the talent, they script it, then they videotape it, then they edit it, then Jennifer will put some nice language to it and we post it up for our community. So it takes a lot of work. So we really appreciate that. And you guys saw the numbers of the public enjoying that virtual programming. We are starting to get some public comment about when will the library be offering in-person programming. And the reason I also wanted to talk about this was I know the library board got a direct comment via the online portal from a woman who is concerned about when the library is going to be offering in-person programming. So I am working with Melissa Orr and the programming coordinators on that effort. And right now, we've got a plan in place to pilot some in-person programming probably in April. And a lot of this depends on where we are as a community in terms of substantial COVID spread or the numbers continuing to go down. We, of course, are going to be very careful about when we ever bring people inside. This initial programming will be done outdoors. We are going to limit attendance. We are going to require mask wearing. Our colleagues in Parks and Recreation are doing in-person programming, a lot of it outdoors. So they have blazed some of the path for us and worked with legal on that. So the in-person programming will be coming in the spring. So I wanted to make sure the board knew about that. I also wanted to report that we will make this an agenda item in the future once we have a little bit more specifics at our fingertips to share with all of you. So thank you very much, Amy. Next slide. So it is a lot. There is a lot going on. I want to thank the library board. That is the conclusion of my director's report. And I guess I can't field any questions on this, but if there's anything from this report outside of the programming item that I would like to put on the agenda in the future, I know that's the next item that Chair Raymond will review. Thank you, Chair Raymond.
Thank you, Kira. Thank you for tying that patron comment to the presentation and addressing the issue that was brought forward. So I appreciate that. And okay, the next part is identifying any future agenda items. This is where we can suggest items. We don't get to discuss them. I know it seems kind of strange. We just can't discuss anything that hasn't been put on the agenda. So if you have any ideas or topics that you would like to discuss and put on a future agenda, if you would go ahead and just let us know. Is there anything?
This is Sheila Collins. After discussion and my meeting with Fred Klein, I had asked that the topic of what we're doing to support adult literacy be placed on the agenda, and I was assured that it would be placed on the March agenda.
That's a great idea. Anyone else? Okay. Well,
Yes, hello.
Yes, Fred.
My raised hand button doesn't work too
Sorry.
good. Yeah, I would like to get a staff report on what's been done or being done to publicize the fine-free policy, because it's my very unscientific observation that a lot of people don't know about it.
Okay. Kara, you've got that on there?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do, Chair Raymond. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Fred.
And, you know, we do have items that were already going to be discussed. I don't know what they are as I just entering in this position. So, you know, we have ideas and agenda items. If you have things that you would like to discuss or something that came out of today's meeting that you would like to discuss further. It doesn't sound like we have any. So the next item on the agenda, let me clarify, Kira, do we have any raised hands?
Okay, let me check here. Sorry, I was just going to let you know that I think also, Chair Raymond, relative to future agenda items, that Adam Yaron from the Scottsdale General Plan is going to also come in March to share an update on that. So that'll be included in March as well.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. I was going to get back to see if I can see any hand raises, and I do not.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is board members' reports. This is where you can, as a board member, give a brief summary of any current events, things that you've done that might be related. Again, we cannot discuss or vote on items that are not on the agenda, including items brought up in the board members' report. Again, complying with the Arizona open meeting law. So anything to report? Anything fun going on?
This is Janet Smigelski. Oh.
Hi, Janet.
This is Janet Smigelski. I did raise my hand. I just wanted to give my monthly report of attending the Friends meetings. As I mentioned, they're extremely active. The Friends are hosting an event, their second airtime with an author. It's they're having Scottsdale author Ann Wilson, who's published 2 books, Hover and Clear to Lift. And the event is February 24th at Appaloosa at 2 p.m. As they had it before, they limited it to 15 attendees because of COVID. And I think there's a couple openings still available. I think everyone was given the flyer. If not, they can find the information on the Friends website, which you can get to from the library website. You can link over to it. The second item, and there's just 3 items, I'll go quickly. The second item is the Friends submitted and are now a finalist for the Southwest Literacy Grant. It's going to be, if awarded, and we are a finalist, a $3,000 grant, which will be used for the story room for technology in that room. So I commend Peggy Sharp Chamberlain for initiating that, that grant proposal for us. And the third thing, the Friends wanted to let the board know that they are raising funds toward helping with the installation of the Hold It lockers at Rio Montana Park. That's one of their projects that they're going to be raising money for. So that's my report. And like I said, the Friends are a great group. I hope everybody belongs to the Friends and encourages anyone they know to join. Thank you.
Janet, this is Sheila Collins. What's the fundraising goals for the lockers? What are we talking?
I don't think they've set that yet. They're looking at the different priorities, and you could I think that's a newer item because they've been really very focused on the story time and possibly the second grade book initiative or library card initiative, but I don't know that for sure that they've set the dollar amount.
Board Member Collins, this is Kira. The cost of the Hold It lockers, and Mandy may have to correct me, but for the Hold It lockers, which would be our priority right now, I reported to the Friends that the cost of that is between $60,000 and $67,000 to get the Hold It locker.
Kira, this is Sheila Raymond, just following up on what Janet said, but actually from the last meeting where we had the Friends of the Library reporting, could you send out the information for all of their social media contacts? I don't recall receiving that information.
Oh, sure. For the Friends, I'm sorry if I didn't send that out. Will do. I'll put it on my notes right now.
Thank you. That way we can do what we can for helping.
Yeah, and I would just, excuse me for interrupting. I would just like to say, if you ever go through the drive-through or the pickup, you can request just to see if you're interested, the Friends bookmark, which is very, very nice. And on the back is a way to volunteer, but they did an excellent job with the bookmark, and I do know that it's being handed out. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other report?
Please, Fred Klein.
Hi, Fred.
Hi. I'd just like to suggest that this heading, Board Members' Reports, be expanded to read Board Members' Reports and Comments, so that it could house any sort of miscellaneous questions or observations that aren't covered in the other headings.
Okay. Did you have a comment you'd like to make?
Well, yes. I think I'd like to see a mechanism so that board members could be involved in the formulation of some of these policies that we see. For example, the very excellent one on shut-ins. I think that would get us, more in touch with the staff, and it would be nice to have some sort of participation in that end of things. Just an observation. Thank you.
Fred, we do have the opportunity to discuss the policy as it comes before us. Are you wanting more than that?
Yeah, as it's drawn up, some of the other boards and commissions I've served on have involved board or commission members in that part of the process. I think it was helpful. I think you became more a part of the operation than otherwise.
Okay, as we cannot discuss that at this time, perhaps that could be on the agenda to discuss what kind of involvement, Kira, that the board members would be able to be involved. I guess.
I think it could just be done informally. It wouldn't have to take any motions or anything like that.
Sure. Okay.
I think I've got it. Okay, thank you.
Great. All right. Anything else? With that, let's, if I can get a motion to adjourn the meeting today.
So moved. This is Sheila.
Hi, Sheila, and second,
I second. This is Janet Smigelski.
okay, we need to do a roll call vote. So Sheila Collins,
Yay.
Sheila Raymond, yay. Sam Campana, Frida Hartman,
Yes.
Fred Klein,
Yes.
Marna McClendon,
Yes.
and Janet Smigelski.
Yeah.
And with that, this meeting is adjourned. The next meeting, oh, before we do that, the next meeting is, it said to be determined. I'm thinking it's going to be a Zoom meeting, Kara?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay. So we have the next meeting as a Zoom, so just be prepared. We'll get on and work out all of our little kinks with this technology. But I do appreciate the staff doing all of this, and being able to do this remotely has been something that we can do to keep the library functioning and moving forward. So thank you. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day.